It's the new aircraft carrier, not the only development for China's military. There's also a restructuring effort underway, and I'm joined now by Christopher Young. He's the Donald Bren Chair of Non-Western Strategic Thought at the U.S. Marine Corps University. Why don't we start with this aircraft carrier? We talked a little bit about the Liaoning. This is a new addition. Kind of just frame it for us as you look across the landscape. There's a lot of countries out there with aircraft carriers. Obviously, the United States has quite a fleet.
There aren't a lot. There are a few.
Good point. Yes, a good point.
There are a few. China, the United States, Great Britain, and a few. But I mean, it's a significant development that China has developed a second aircraft carrier. I think what's most important is the fact that it's its first indigenous aircraft carrier. The first one being based on a Soviet acquisition, and now a Russian acquisition, a Ukrainian acquisition. So this is a significant development, and the fact that China has developed its first indigenous carrier is a significant development. Certainly something for China to be proud of.
Let me talk to you about these long talked about plans of restructuring the military. And they're going to basically, I guess it's a regrouping. This was talked about last year. Military area commands from 7 to 5 theaters. Talk to me about why that was necessary and how does this reshape the military?
So the joint reforms, the military restructuring reforms initially announced at the 18th Party Congress, the details having just been released last year, is a pretty significant development. So why the need to move from 7 military regions to 5 operational commands, theater commands? American analysts think, and in discussions with our Chinese counterparts, that those military regions really were outdated concepts. That is, a Nanjing military region, a Beijing military region are really designed to manage internal China issues. That is, they're geographically tied. And therefore, the movement towards an operational command allows China to develop into a more joint force and can think beyond China itself. And so amongst China analysts, they've said that's a necessary thing that had to have happened in order to become a much more joint operating force. They have to move away from the old People's Liberation Army towards a more modern concept. So this is not a surprise. We've been hearing about joint reform for the last 2 decades. This development, though, is pretty significant in that it's a move in the right direction.
Let me use the aircraft carrier as an analogy, though, but moving any type of military, making any kind of changes or adjustments, it's just like changing the course of an aircraft carrier. It's slow, it's plodding, it's difficult. What are some of the bumps along the way for something like this?
So there are some pretty significant bumps. So in addition to the fact that the 7 military regions were turned into 5 theater commands, you also had a pretty significant change within the PLA command structure itself. Before, they had 4 general departments essentially running the People's Liberation Army within Beijing. Those were completely gotten rid of. And Xi Jinping and the People's Liberation Army and the Chinese Communist Party have created, essentially reorganized the Chinese military. So they've gotten rid of the 4 general departments, which have been around for decades, which was a big surprise amongst most American watchers of the Chinese military. So that's a pretty significant change. Another one is joint personnel. How do you actually make a military officer who's not just part of the Army or the Navy or the Air Force and is a joint military officer? That's a question and an issue the Chinese are going to have to develop over time. So that's a second big restructuring that they're going to have to do. And then managing of joint forces in theater. So just getting rid of 7 military regions and creating 5 operational commands, you've got to put those commands with people who have joint experience, and you have to have a way to command and coordinate amongst all those different operational commands. So they've got a pretty hefty organizational effort underway, and it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to take them quite a while to get it done.
It's a big lift. Christopher Young, thanks so much for coming in and your analysis.